don't care if you're going off of your gut or pen and paper. I want you to think correctly about knowing your numbers. Why? So that you have the confidence that you need to close the deals that actually make a profit for you and have the confidence to walk away from the ones that will never make you any money. If you haven't heard of SynkedUP before, or where I'm from, just a little introduction. I basically grew up at this company called Tussey Landscaping in central Pennsylvania. When I started there, it was a $700,000 a year company with 7 to 10 employees, not really making any money. We were working hard, but not really making any money. And over the years, as we doubled down to solve this problem inside of Tussey Landscaping, we learned a lot of things the hard way, and ultimately those lessons is what we baked into the software, and those lessons is what I'm here to kind of share in these slides of how to think about profitability, knowing your numbers, how you price your jobs, etc. So I'm going to switch a little bit to a narrative storytelling kind of mode here to kind of set the stage for what the problem is before we figure out this know your numbers thing. And really, this is the situation that we were living through at Tussey Landscaping too. So we went, all contractors go through this in some form or fashion. But the situation that you can find yourself in is you get a lead for your biggest job yet. And then you proceed to sweat for hours crunching all the numbers, and you get to this moment right here where you need to hit send on that proposal. And how many of you identify with those emojis right there? I wish I could see you all raise your hands or grin sheepishly and slump down in your seats a little further. But yeah, we all get to this moment. And what in the world is causing us to feel this way? Why do we get to this moment and we just feel like, man, I'm just not sure I want to. I've talked to contractors that have had the estimate done for 2 weeks. And they still haven't sent it, or it's still laying on their desk. What is making that happen? It's a lack of confidence. And when you don't have that confidence, you end up fighting that head trash or self-doubt, and you sabotage yourself. And when you hit send on this proposal for $60K, Mrs. Jones says, hey, I love it. I got $55K. When can you start? What do? You got payroll due next week. You got a bill at your supplier. You have a schedule to fill. Leads have been not as plentiful. What do? Do you just cave and take it? Or do you say, no problem, Mrs. Jones. I understand that you only have $55K. What would you like to cut? I mean, I could modify the design. We could swap some products. We could scale it back and make it a little smaller. What would you like to cut? And you position yourself as the subject matter expert, coming up with expert suggestions on what Mrs. Jones could do to go from $60K to $55K without you ever compromising on your profit margin. And the idea here is it's not your fault if your client can't afford what they want. And the other temptation to resist right here in this moment is that it is not the cheapest price that wins the job. Common misconception. Our natural brain, our brain just generates this answer that, I must not be winning the job because Mrs. Jones wants it for $55K, which is less than my price. So if I don't go down to $55K, I'm going to lose the job. Not true. What is the biggest indication of who's going to win that job? Let's say your competitors are also bidding on it. There was a study done on 1.3 million proposals last year. And out of that study, what do you think was the top indication of who was going to win that job? It is literally the first one to get the proposal back. And it is not what is commonly believed to be, whoever's the cheapest. Not true. It's whoever's going to get the proposal back. So the point I want to make here before I keep going on in the slides is your energy is much better invested when you focus on your systems and processes to produce a proposal and turn that into a process that instead of taking hours takes minutes. Energy spent in building your systems and processes in your business in pursuit of that goal, reducing proposal turnaround time, has a far greater ROI than trying to figure out how to shave 5% off the price. Because it's not the cheapest price that wins the job. If it was the cheapest price that always wins the sale, well, then Ferrari would never sell a car. Why does Ferrari sell cars? Because they're creating a product and value that there is a market for, and that market, those buyers, are willing to pay the price for the product and the value that Ferrari creates. But guess what? That product and value is not for everyone. You'll never sell a Ferrari to a Kia buyer. What is the most courteous thing that you can do if a Kia buyer walks into your Ferrari dealership? The most courteous thing you can do is send them directions, give them directions to the Kia dealer. This connects back to what I said a little earlier. Like, it's not your fault when your client cannot afford what they want or what they're asking for. Instead, my little hack that I like to kind of use to kind of set my mindset correct on this is I put myself in the mindset of I'm going to serve this customer as if they were my grandmother, meaning I'm going to give expert suggestions on what they could do to adjust the scope of work to hit the price point they want. Or if I realize they're a Kia buyer and I'm selling Ferraris, I'm just going to refer them to the best source I have for Kias, to the Kia dealership. And the point is we need to have a mindset of serving the customer, and out of that serving the customer will come an authenticity that cannot be replaced by any other means. And it's not your price that's the culprit. It's not your price that's losing the work. What we do position ourselves as is subject matter experts that help the client get what they want within the budget that they have. And when that is not possible, we gently, courteously, and kindly educate them to help them understand as to what things cost and try to decide, help them make a decision as to what they want to do from here. Do they want to do nothing because they didn't realize that their cute little picture they have on their Instagram feed is actually a $250,000 backyard, not a $20,000 backyard? Or is it that you can just scale the project back and still win it? The point I'm making on this slide is serving your customer as if they were your grandmother. Pursue the market that is the buyer of the thing that you sell. If you're selling Ferraris, you're going to be frustrated when your lead generation process is just generating Kia buyers. So that's a marketing and lead vetting and qualifying problem, not a pricing problem. And the common misconception here is that I'm way more expensive than everyone else, and that's why I'm losing work. Not true. Yes, price is a factor, but it is not what is losing you work. When we're in this mode, what we try is, we might come up with our own spreadsheets. We do hours and hours of calculations and math. We might even be doing some educated guessing if it's jobs that we've never done before. And of course, the infamous question of what would you charge on industry Facebook groups. But if that is what we're doing, the result of that is we feel like we're reinventing the wheel for every quote. And this is exactly what leads us to the place of allowing the client to negotiate on that price instead of scope, because we don't have confidence. We don't know our break even. And so the only thing we know how to do is negotiate on the price because we don't have the confidence to stand our ground. And the sooner you adopt the posture of it is what it is, either you can afford it or you can't. I'm not going to compromise my profit margin to win your job. If I'm going to lose money, I would rather take the kids fishing. That's what a hobby is. When money is leaving my bank account, that's a hobby. When money's coming in, that's a business. But this is exactly the scenario that leads us to, and I've heard this thousands of times from contractors all over North America. It's the same everywhere. The my market argument is not the problem. But this is exactly what happens here when we say, I've done more revenue than I ever had before, but I've made less money than I ever had before, and I don't understand it. We're working harder than we ever have. We're getting more work done. Our clients are giving us 5-star reviews. They love us. My team's happy. We should be crushing it, but we're not. Why? I'll show you why. So the solution is what we need to do is first get that confidence in our pricing so we're not tempted to sabotage ourselves. And to get that confidence, what it really means is we have to find our break even on every job. And the way to do that is to find out what it costs you to run your business. how you do that is you plug all of your costs and expenses into a thing called a budget. You can do this for free to calculate your rates. And when you plug all of your expenses into a budget, you get your hourly rates back out, your overhead recovery is automated, your profit margin is set. And when you do the work, you cannot help but be confident. There's no motivational chest beating session required to get this confidence. All you got to do is get the work done. And when you get the work done, the natural byproduct is the confidence that prevents you from underselling yourself. You can't help but have that confidence because you've done the work and you know exactly what your break even is. You're like, that 60K proposal I sent Mrs. Jones, my break even is 53K on that. I'm not doing that for 55. No way. Moving into the tactical of how what it actually looks like to solve this, I have a video here that kind of gives some animations to show the concept.
Okay, so I'm going to explain how to find your labor rate as simply and visually as possible. And we need to get away from deciding what I'll charge based on what the other guys are charging. You know, looking to your left to see what the cheapest guy is charging, and then looking to your right to see what the most expensive guy is charging, and then just kind of plopping my pricing wherever I kind of feel is right in the middle. And you can see how I'm basing my hourly rate on my own perception of my own self-worth rather than what it costs me to be in business. And you can't stay there because when your costs go up and your price doesn't go up with them, you're in trouble. A slightly better and also common way of doing it in the contractor world is a 50% gross profit margin. Basically, you just take your direct expenses of material and labor and you double it. But what that's not taken into consideration is your overhead expenses, like your trucks, your office admin, your marketing. And so what can happen is your direct costs stay the same, but your overhead grows, and it literally stretches your price up to the point where, man, you're not even covering your cost to be in business, and that's where it gets you into trouble. The overhead is growing as your company grows, but your pricing isn't going with it. What you want to do is base your pricing on those three elements together: direct costs, overhead, and your net profit. And then when any of them grows, the pricing goes with it. My insurance goes up, I plug it in, and my price goes up a little bit. Marketing spend goes up, I plug it in, it goes up a little bit. What gets you into trouble is if your pricing stays stuck and you get to the point where your cost to run the business outpaces what you're charging your customers to do the work. And that's how you work really hard and end up not having any profit to show for it.
One thing I did not say in that video, but is also true, is the opposite is true as well. So like in my video, in the animation, I was saying if your insurance goes up, so does your labor rate. If this goes up, so does your labor rate. But the opposite is also true. If you are able to cut expenses, your labor rate can come down. But I rarely advise people to cut expenses unless they have had a spending problem in the past and they have expenses that they shouldn't have. That's different. But most contractors typically don't really struggle from that. I would say most contractors struggle from the mindset, they struggle getting to the point where they spend money to make money. They try to save their way to profitability, and it's not possible. But the most effective thing that you can do as a contractor to impact this in your favor is get more work done without increasing your overhead expenses, which means that look at all your overhead expenses, your trucks, your equipment, your fuel, your marketing, like all those overhead expenses are the infrastructure that you built on which it's what your company runs on. Those are fixed expenses for the most part. And if you can get more work done, more production done without increasing those overhead expenses, you're more efficient. And because you can get more work done without increasing those overhead expenses can be spread out across more jobs, which has the impact of bringing your rates down. See what I mean? So the pursuit of efficiency, getting more production done without increasing overhead expenses, is the biggest low-hanging fruit that can make a massive difference for a contractor.